Welcome to another episode of Wrestling Tonight, covering all things wrestling, as always, live from No Sale Studios. I'm the Ace of the Tavern, and joined as always by the one bad Chad. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. This is All In week. It's officially the largest paid attendance for a wrestling program. From what I read, I think they surpassed Mania. I'm sure there are people that'll dispute that, all the inflated numbers, but I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped just to see an arena. A stadium show done by a company, not WWE. How's it going to look? I'm a sucker for the pomp and circumstance of big shows, and we're so used to how Stanford does it. So I'll be very interested to see how, the boys down in Jacksonville do it. So I'm pumped, man. It's going to be a great week of wrestling.
And we can only hope that the show, as that the UK usually says, the dog's bollocks, which means it's awesome. But I'm excited, dude. Like you mentioned, Wembley is a spectacle. This has been the first time they're going to be hosting a wrestling show of any kind since SummerSlam 1992. So it's lived in our lore for a very long time. And this is a big step for AEW 4 years into their existence. I think if anyone would have told you all those years ago when AEW was first, getting started, that this would be the trajectory sitting here on the precipice of what is the largest wrestling gate as of right now. We understand that, Philly just sold 90K in one day, whatever it is, for 2 nights of wrestling. It doesn't matter to me. I don't really care about any sort of record, but the here and now is what counts. And All Elite Wrestling in 4 years has now taken that record from WWE, which you can expect WWE to do things like this, but a 4-year company to have this, even for a short period of time, is amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. Like, I never would have thought they would be at the level of a stadium show as quickly as they got there. I thought that was something that it was probably going to be around the decade mark. Hey, 10 years doing this, we're going to put on a big show. The fact that we're not even 5 years in and they've already nearly sold out Wembley Stadium, that's impressive. And if you're scoffing at that, I think you're just a hater. Like, no matter what you feel about any company, it's a good thing that another company other than WWE can garner that many fans in one building.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I made the mistake of scrolling through X or Instagram and checking out some of the naysayers, as you're mentioning, those that are poo-pooing what is going on for All in London and saying that it's so easy. It's a UK crowd. It's their international debut in that market. So of course they're going to sell that many tickets. But you beg the question, why has any other company tried to do it? How come Impact wasn't able to do it? How come WWE hasn't gone back to Wembley? Because it's not easy. This is something that isn't a guarantee, and they took a risk because those same people that are kind of saying 80K is not a big deal would be the same people laughing in their faces if they only did 20K and had a half-empty stadium. So you can't win. You can't listen to the haters, and wrestling's in a good spot. Whether you are a WWE tribalist, an AEW tribalist, whether you are someone who kind of looks on the periphery and just enjoys wrestling at large, this is a good barometer of where wrestling is. And as you mentioned before, this is something that we all should be applauding, whether we are enjoying the AEW product or not. This is a big landmark event for wrestling at large because WWE, the institution, is not doing this. This is AEW, the 4-year-old promotion that is making waves. And this is a huge, huge step.
Absolutely. When they write the history books of professional wrestling, this will be a monumental chapter in that book. It's a book that never ends. We get that. It's a never-ending book. But this is a massive, massive deal, man. Like, you look at shows like WrestleMania 1, obviously. WrestleMania 3, big deal. This is right up there with that. This, not only is it proving that someone else can do it, but it's proving that there is a viable, big-time show. Big time. People can Impact, TNA, they couldn't do this at the height of their popularity in England. They couldn't do this. 80,000 that's a big ask, man. That is a big, tall ask for a professional wrestling company, not even 5 years old, to accomplish that. I just got to tip my cap to them because we as fans are the ones that are going to get to benefit from this coming weekend. We're going to get to sit down, watch some afternoon epic professional wrestling.
And it's just amazing to me to watch the goalposts continue to be moved, because if you go back in our archives of checking out and talking about this news here, the conversation was, can they do it? Will they do it? And then now
Right.
people that are talking about, now that they've done it, this is why they've done it. It's so easy. Anyone could have done it, and taking away from the accomplishment. But don't let that distract you from the excitement that should be palpable going into this weekend. It is a huge deal. And, just touching upon and listening to the flagship, and you guys always do an excellent job breaking down Dynamite and Collision at this point, talking about all the AEW happenings. It literally is a one-stop shop. So make sure you guys check it out where you get your podcasts from. Two Bad Chads talking about. That's what the Turnbuckle Tavern's been built on. You guys are talking about lack of build and just really just the rush microwave level put together of some of these matches. And you can start with, really, you can make the argument that really the only match that has been built, very extensively is the MJF Adam Cole match. But I think a lot of the reasons that the build has been subpar, for lack of a better word, is because of the main star of this show is the stadium. And I think they showcased that with Wembley, with the Stadium Stampede. They wanted to feature it. So I think they got lost in that. And I think a lot of the builds, similar to, and on a smaller scale, obviously the Multiverse show that just happened yesterday, and we're recording before it happened, and Emergence the next weekend, which is the same day as All in London. There is a lot to be said of, you're using one show to showcase in a big spectacle, and then the other show is going to progress story, and hopefully All Out comes together more with the storytelling aspect, but All In is going to live in lore, like as a one-off, as this beautiful pageantry that is Wembley Stadium.
Very well said. I mean, speaking of the flagship, we did talk about the lack of story, the lack of build going in. It is a reactionary show. We literally record it right after Dynamite. So we are all up in our feelings, guys. So cut us some slack when we're overly excited or when we're overly negative. It's very in the moment, but you're right, man. I think a lot of the calls, and this is no excuse for them, but a lot of the calls behind maybe some of this build kind of getting away from them and time getting away from them is first stadium show ever. A new event, you're plugging in a new event into your rotation. You're coming out of Forbidden Door. You're going into All Out. Then you throw this stadium show in the mix with all the logistics that have to go into making all of that happen. This is something you've never, I think the largest thing they've ever did is Arthur Ashe, which was like 21,000. And then you're quadrupling that essentially into this show. I get, like, this is their first time out. There's going to be a lot of pitfalls, but make no mistake about it. The matches themselves, there's a lot of great matches to watch, and you better bet your bottom dollar that there is going to be moments to come out of this event. I know they're going to have surprises up their sleeve with 80,000 eyes in that stadium looking at what's going on in that squared circle. They're going to pull out some things that we're not expecting, that we're not planning for, that aren't on the match graphics that we have today that we can look at. This is going to be a destination thing to watch. So regardless of story build and all of the negativity that we have been throwing on this event, wishing, as a fan, you wish for the best. You want more. You always want more. All of that being said, this event is going to be gangbusters, man. Like, have they ever put on a pay-per-view, AEW, where you've came out and said, man, that was really disappointing overall? I get the exploding barbed wire deathmatch finish. A lot of people were down on that, but the card itself was a good card. They've never delivered a bad card, and I don't think All In is going to be any different.
Yeah, and I was listening to What Happens When with Tony Schiavone and Conrad. They were talking about just being in London, and Tony Schiavone speaking about the pressure that AEW feels, and hearing from his perspective, who's seen it all. Guy's been a lifelong wrestling, really historian at this point, every step of the way. And we know he took that gap of time out of wrestling, but he's still watching from afar. But the things that he's witnessed, and saying that this is going to be one of the most important moments he's a part of. And I understand recency bias and all of that, but he recognizes really there's a pressure on Tony Khan and all the crew in AEW to make this special. And make no mistake about it, I think they will go out of their way to make this special. And some of the best cards we've seen really recently with AEW, especially, the less build, the better the show, which is ironic, but it seems to be the case. Like, if you go back to the Forbidden Door show, that first one, where anything that could have went wrong has gone wrong, Murphy's Law type of style with the build, everybody getting hurt. one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen compared to like WrestleMania 17. So we'll see exactly how this goes down. But you're starting with your biggest star being the stadium lit up, and if things are exactly how we expect, and we close our eyes and imagine what Wembley looks like, 80K plus, screaming and yelling, chanting, singing, all these things that go into it, the electricity running through it. This is going to be a special moment for wrestling fans.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited. I think about the pageantry, the look, the lighting, the music, the smoke, the fog, the pyro. I think of all of that, and sometimes my mind drifts away that we're in UK with one of the greatest wrestling fan bases, and they're going to be losing their ever-loving mind. So it's going to be, I'm so excited for Sunday, man. I can't even it feels like a mania to me. It really does. Like, I'm as excited for this as I am a big WrestleMania.
So let's get into big story number one and talk about what's headlining and really what's moved the most tickets here for All In.
Big stories. Story one.
Big story number one, we have the main event. Undoubtedly, MJF defending his AEW championship against Adam Cole. And the build has been one of the best builds they've done, really compared to Kenny Omega and Hangman as far as titles and championships around it. They could have went the normal route of having these being built up as a grudge match that Adam Cole had him beat and he had the visible pin on MJF. They went the complete opposite route, and they caught fire with an organic build to this bromance of a team that everyone is clamoring to stay together, hug it out. And now we're going to get them on a big stage. And really, like, I was looking at this and seeing Adam Cole at this spot on the card, especially where he was prior to getting injured, and how we were critical of how, and I don't think anyone could say that the start of his AEW career was what they expected. He wasn't the big star they thought they were getting, because him and Bryan Danielson coming in on the same night, 1A, 1B type of stuff. And Adam Cole was perceived by everybody as, what's going on with this guy? They tried to do the stuff with Undisputed Era. They tried their best to tie him back in with the Elite. It just didn't work. Now this is like maybe something they didn't expect to happen, because truly I believe that the build has been kind of altered based on the crowd's reaction. And now we have this fun story where they're not rivals going into this match. They're friends that have a competitive edge to them. And man, it has me excited for this match with MJF, a young star. You can't say this is like bringing in an ex-WWE guy, and Adam Cole, who's reinvented himself in a different way.
Yeah, this has really taken fire in ways that I didn't expect it to. Like, who would have thought going into this MJF would be in the situation he's in? And I think it's a brilliant booking move, because we're so used to his feuds, him verbally assaulting his opponent, and he's done it a myriad of ways. But this feels fresh. We've never seen him like this. It's almost the story of MJF finally having a friend. And we can see the stress of, oh man, where's this going? He's finally let his guard down. And I love the mutual respect aspect of it. And this was something that I did not think I would like, especially with MJF being involved. You want to see him spit venom. You want to see him get nasty. But with this, the mutual respect, when last Dynamite, when they traded barbs and Adam Cole was like, just letting you know, I will do anything and everything to win that title. And then MJF's like, your friendship means the world to me, but it doesn't mean as much as the Triple B. The way they're building it, I still feel the same amount of drama and suspense going into this, as who's going to win, who's going to come out on top, without having that black and white heel and face archetype here. And I think it's a brilliant move. We're all expecting something to happen, whether it's MJF going back to his old ways or Adam Cole doing the crazy just dagger in the heart of the fans and turning on MJF when he finally let his guard down. All that being said, I think they have things up their sleeve with this story that we don't even see coming right now. I think the ROH 0 hour tag title match that they have to kind of kick off the 0 hour pre-show, I think that's going to play heavily into this main event. I think something's going to happen there that threads the story, and I honestly cannot wait to see how this plays out. I think they're going to tear the roof down. And the last thing I want to say, a comment about this match that I think is very, very, you got to give your respect to AEW. It's very impressive how they have, through this storyline, rehabilitated Adam Cole. Because if you would have told fans a year ago that Adam Cole would be main eventing their biggest show they've ever put on, people would call bullshit. He wasn't at that spot. And to be honest, when he came back off of his injury, I don't think he was ready then. That just shows you how good this story has been, because you're not hearing, at least I'm not, I'm sure there are those fans out there, but you're not hearing en masse from fans, Adam Cole shouldn't be main eventing this. He's not a top guy. I'm not hearing that out. Like, people are totally bought in that this is the rightful main event for this show.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Adam Cole as the best version of him throughout Ring of Honor, PWG, is as a heel, and NXT as well. He showed those signs of himself, and it's so easy to be lured in by wanting to have him as a babyface because the crowd reacts to him and the chanting and the music and everything about it. You have to resist that urge, because him as a heel is where the money's at. I look back at ROH as when he super kicked Jay Briscoe's dad, attacking Michael Elgin's wife.
Yeah.
When he in New Japan, when he tried to fire the Young Bucks from the Bullet Club, and even go down the list where he targeted Candice LeRae and beat the shit out of her on a PWG show as the champion. All those things. He is a slimy, manipulative heel that, if they tap into it the right way, is the perfect counterpart to making MJF into this super babyface. And I think that's always been on deck for him. And they've been hesitant to do it because of the same reasons we've talked about with Adam Cole, where they're resistant to making him this really crazy, maniacal heel because of how good of a babyface he is with the crowd reaction. Same thing with MJF. They know whether his bread is buttered as far as the reactions. You reference the venomous promos, you reference everything about him. MJF as a babyface definitely looks different, but sometimes the other side of things, you need a counterpart to really get people behind him. People want to cheer MJF because he's a good heel, but I think to get people to be sympathetic, as you referenced at the beginning of this build here, MJF finally has a friend. And we hear all those stories about him being bullied in school and that real life tensions being tied in. And now that if Adam Cole comes out of the woodwork and he's the one that screwed MJF, the sympathy that's going to be elicited from him with the acting chops he has, this has the makings of a long-term feud, and also to launch both of them into superstardom on AEW's spectrum, as MJF's going to be this super babyface in his own way, though. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the tongue-in-cheek when he came out the night after wearing the Josh Allen jersey in Buffalo. It's not that babyface. No. We know it's going to be the Stone Cold level where he's going to be breaking the rules. He's still going to hit people at the ring. He's still going to cheat.
Our scumbag.
He's going to be our scumbag. Exactly. And Adam Cole, man, if you're not familiar with his ROH work, guys, go out of your way to listen to those promos he cut. And you saw little inklings of that during his promo against MJF, and the final promo they had last week, where he sat there and said, I will do nothing. Nothing will stop me from getting my hands on the title. And that tells all, man. He's going to go out of his way. He's going to cheat. He's going to steal that championship. And I really think he's walking out of Wembley as the AEW champion.
I think I spoke about this on the flagship show. I think we could possibly see a high level double turn where it's not a full on double turn, because fans, like you said, Ace, fans have kind of been wanting a babyface push. We heard an interview with Jericho months ago where he told Max, you're going to be one of the biggest baby faces in the business. And Max was like, no, I want to be a heel. He was like, you're not going to be able to stop it. And we saw a little bit of an inkling with MJF kind of teasing that. And then he went hard back to his heelish ways. I think that was them taking the temperature of the room. And now he's done a lot in his young career. He's had arguably one of the best Iron Man matches. He's had arguably one of the best dog collar matches.
Yep.
He's done a lot where now another thing he can check off his box that people like Bret Hart and Stone Cold have claimed to is to do a high level double turn, where when we come out of All In, if Adam Cole sticks that dagger in the fan's heart and turns on his quote unquote best friend, I think MJF's going to come out with ultimate sympathy, and Adam Cole is going to be just hated by the fans. And I'm so excited. I think it'll be fun to watch MJF chase as our scumbag type of babyface, but I want to see that just dastardly son of a bitch that we all know Adam Cole can pull out. And he did a little bit of that in NXT, but I don't think in NXT they even tapped into some of the true viciousness that he has shown in his Ring of Honor days. So this has all the makings of an iconic moment in this company's history, because as it stands right now, MJF still, people don't trust him as well, but this could be a fork in the road for their company where we get to see we've seen 4 years of MJF as just the ultimate bad guy. Maybe this is a fork in the road where we get 3 or 4 years of him being the face, the baby face of this company before he goes back to his old ways like a Ric Flair. This is history in the making, this match. I think it's going to set course for and lay the groundwork for the next several years of All Elite Wrestling programming.
I know I said that Adam Cole will win, and that is my prediction, but there is a chance that they extend this story down the line and have MJF go over, and that kind of feeds the drama going into maybe Adam Cole turns at All Out or wherever. I think the bigger moment, like you said, is at this, the cameras and everybody up in their seats watching this happen at 80K, and the double turn happens here. This is going to be shown over and over again. Once I have a streaming service, you'll have access to it, but they're going to show highlights of this forever. There's going to be pictures of it. I think this is the place to do it, because not only is it a moment to cement MJF as that babyface, but now you have a moment in time that Adam Cole, this is something that is going to be remembered forever. You might as well do it the biggest stage ever. And I know everyone's been talking about the chase 2024, and there's been less heat on that with MJF's contract coming up and him holding the company hostage. I think really they've moved away from it really because of the perception of the company. I don't think the company can withstand that because of everything that's been going on. Those 3 letters have been so badly damaged since a year ago today, at September Brawl Out and everything. They had to rehabilitate. To have MJF as your champion kind of teasing leaving, I think they really have to shy away from anything that damages them kayfabe wise or otherwise, because AEW needs to be looked at in a positive light. And the goal of really this program is to cement MJF as that babyface. And I think him chasing, that's the best. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin was a great champion, but he was a better chaser. And I think MJF is a babyface chasing Adam Cole. People are going to get behind him. And then inevitably he does beat him, whether it's 6-7 months on the line or even less than that. The story is continuing to be written, and the program is better off for with Adam Cole as a heel, MJF as a face. So let's do it.
I'm with you, man. I think it's going to be, if done correctly, I think this could garner a lot of business for AEW. I think it'll compel fans. I think shying away from 2024 is the smart idea, just like you said. And honestly, there's a part of me, I think he's already signed up. And if he's not signed up, it's a foregone conclusion. They're not letting this kid go to WWE. This is a talent where Tony would open the book and match anything that they offer him. You've built your entire company around this kid, and it looks like you intend to do it in bigger ways moving forward. So I have no doubt he's signing with this company. And with this at the top of the card of their biggest show they've ever done, their first stadium show, I think that's all you need to know about how they view their future.
Yeah, and I think also, pulling the threads apart and talking about what the future holds, we've seen things with the Kingdom kind of pop out. Roderick Strong, all that stuff comes into play. Where does CM Punk fit into the storyline here? Because obviously unfinished business with MJF. He believes he's the uncrowned champion. Adam Cole and CM Punk have this Ring of Honor lineage, although they were kind of two ships of the night. They had different eras of Ring of Honor, but them as a dream match would be kind of cool as well. And MJF tied into that.
And Adam Cole has said one of his biggest dreams is to face CM Punk. So I think that's something that will happen.
It'd be interesting though. And of course, we'll see how Wembley reacts to Punk. And of course, we'll talk about his match or rumored match. It's not officially announced as we're recording this on Saturday evening, but we'd imagine that CM Punk is going to remain to be a babyface, I would imagine, but maybe a union between Adam Cole and CM Punk as two heels running all over the roster would be kind of interesting as well. But this main event is the main event. And a lot of times you look at the card. I mean, you can look at FTR versus the Bucks. Maybe that feels like a main event. Ospreay and Jericho on other cards feel like a main event. The build has been circled around this. It's been weaved in and out of the shows. They've been had vignettes towards it. These two guys feel like top guys going into your biggest show of the year. And you can't ask for anything more as far as build goes for this match.
No, yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is the one match on the card that has been built properly. Like, this is the one that, I mean, they're getting 3 to 4 segments every show. I mean, to the point where they went on to Collision and faced FTR and popped a monster rating just because that was the bait. They built this story on Dynamite, and the bait was, hey, we're going to have the title match over on our other show. And everyone showed up to watch because we're tuned in to MJF and Adam Cole. I got to ask you though, Ace, like, it was a weird thing when they added this Ring of Honor tag team title match with these guys. If you're rubbing on your crystal ball, how do you think that plays into this match? Like, I mean, if they lose, if they win, like, obviously we floated the idea on the flagship. It's one of those ways where maybe it's a tactical move by Adam Cole to wear MJF down going into that title match. But how do you see that factoring into the storytelling of this main event?
I think it's just that. I think wearing him down, not going to be obvious to everybody else. We're going to see it, and maybe Adam Cole gets hit off the apron and MJF's left in the ring with Aussie Open by himself for a while. He gets worn down, and maybe you can piece it together later down the line that was purposeful. Do I see them walking away with the championships? I don't, but I don't know who gets pinned here. I don't know how they work this out, because really you don't want either guy getting pinned going in. Of course, MJF should not get pinned prior to losing the world title. Same thing with Adam Cole. I mean, I guess him leaving All In as a heel, I guess he could sustain a quick roll up and be pissed off or something. But I guess it would be a precursor if they win these ROH tag titles. It would add another element of, if he does turn and they have these titles, maybe this is the one of those things where consolation prize, because they wanted to give them the AEW tag titles but didn't want to invest all of it. They want to have tag belts on them going into this, but I think this is kind of a red herring. I don't think they win the titles, and they're going to find a way to get out of it. But MJF will be worse for wear going into the match, which will play a part into him losing it inevitably.
And I think fans will be watching this match on 0 Hour with a keen eye, because I think your gut tells you if they win these tag titles, there's not going to be some monstrous turn. But I think that could be the storytelling device to throw the scent off of the turn too.
True.
They could use that to put the tag titles on them. Oh, they're together. And then the turn happens. Then you're left with a fallout of, you're not going to think there's going to be some major shift if they're tag champions. And then the big shift happens and you're like, well, what's that mean for the ROH tag titles? So I think it was a genius move. It's an odd move to have your main event wrestling earlier in the night, but at the same time, it's kind of a genius move because it throws a storytelling wrench in there where you're like, well, how is this going to work? And it makes it harder to predict, in my opinion. The fact that this is happening makes it a lot harder to predict.
Yeah, and Aussie Open is the beneficiary of this as well. They're in the ring with the main event as well. And if Aussie Open is Fletcher and Davis are just absolutely monsters, and very nice to see them back teaming together. Them as ROH champions is the right decision. So I don't think they should lose the titles, but again, creative minds, more creative than myself, will be sitting in a room figuring this out to find a way to keep the titles on Aussie Open, but not damage MJF and Adam Cole going into the main event. Like I said, quick roll up, probably feet on the ropes. Who knows? I don't know. Aussie Open's a heel, so you'll figure out how to do it, but I just don't see them walking into that match with the tag titles. It would be interesting, but I also think like MJF is really, nobody thinks he's ever going to appear on ROH programming. You don't want to use those titles as just like a prop. If they want to put some respect on ROH, they really shouldn't be doing that.
Right. No, I'm with you. They run the risk of, there's a lot of risk here. You could, like you said, you could, depending on the finish, you could lower their stock going into the main event, which I don't think they want to do or they will do. But you could also damage the perception of ROH if say they would win those titles, then instantly like Adam Cole vacates the belts, or there's so many ways that could hurt. That's what makes this so compelling. It's like you have to stick the landing on this perfectly because there's so many wrong ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think you could also, and DQ is not the way to do it, but I guess it's on the pre-show, so you could do a DQ. You could also reveal down the line that Adam Cole was working with Aussie Open to make this happen and have them focus on MJF and say, you know, take the chair to him at whatever point of the match, and then Adam Cole can look shocked. But there's a whole bunch of ways that I think we're not going to know the details until 2-3 weeks from now, where everything gets unveiled. And don't forget, All Out plays a part of this as well. What's the build to All Out being? Because they're going to be planting seeds all across the board for that show here, because it's so soon that I think they're going to be very careful about strategically making sure we know their direction. And like we said, I think CM Punk plays a big part of that main event come All Out in Chicago. But who's he wrestling, MJF or Adam Cole? We'll see.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, man, is that's why when in our opening monologue, I was talking about, you better bet your bottom dollar there's going to be some big moments. I think that plays into it. The fact that the week after All In is All Out. So, you know, there's going to be some huge angles shot to set up that card. If you're wanting people to shell out $50 back-to-back weekends, All In is set, but now you have got to fire a cannon blast for All Out, like to get people. Everyone's buying All In for the spectacle of it, but now, unless you bring your A game on All Out, there will be a lot of fans that probably, just from financial reasons, that'll be like, you know what, I'm not going to buy that. But if you make it just one of those shows where you can't not buy it, I think that's what they're going to be going for, is to set up a lot of things with this show to get people to buy, where they don't drop that pay-per-view number. But we'll see, man. It's going to be very, very interesting.
With that being said, let's get to big story number 2, which does affect our card in a different way than we thought.
Big story 2.
Big story number 2, we have kind of this layer of the story that came out late last week about Cash Wheeler being arrested for what they're calling aggravated assault with a firearm. This is according to the Orange County clerk, posting the affidavit to issue warrant that was filed on July 28th, one day after Wheeler is alleged to have, quote, brandished a weapon during a roadway rage incident in Florida. And the affidavit includes a report from the responding police officer. So they pretty much just talk about how Cash Wheeler was driving allegedly erratically and also was brandishing a handgun. Some people have come out, most notably the AEW World Champion MJF issued a comment regarding the matter, talking about how people are quick to jump on an app and make a lot of conclusions. And I think a lot of people don't have all the details here. And of course, it's one side of the story, and Cash Wheeler is going through, you know, really the process here and doing everything by the book. And this happened weeks and weeks ago. The other piece of this, and we don't know this, but allegedly Tony Khan found out with the rest of us, which had to come as not a nice feeling on the Built All In. It's not something you want to be worrying about. But it seems like that either they can delay the case or whatever the findings are, though they won't have to have a result of this, and nor I don't think they will before All In happens. And also, they did not pull his passport because of, obviously, he doesn't have any other criminal background. They did all that and said he's not a risk for anything else. So it seems like really the only thing that would be stopping him from competing at All In would be the optics on Tony Khan's side. And let's just say, two different cases, two different people. That does not stop WWE from having the Usos have the longest reigning tag team championship reign in modern history, knowing their legal history. And we've seen Jimmy and Jay both on SmackDown the next week after getting a DWI. So we'll wait for the details. I mean, Cash Wheeler has been nothing but a model citizen as far as AEW goes. He's led by example. He's been a good leader, and he has said the right things. And maybe this is just a lapse of judgment. Maybe there's more details to this, but I'm not jumping to conclusions because that's when you get into trouble here. You want to make sure that let the due justice happen, and we'll get more details as it comes. But most notably, it seems like we're still going to get FTR versus the Bucks at All In.
Yeah, that's the important thing for fans. We're wanting to know if the match is going to happen. Came out, said he's not a flight risk. Him going over there, they're not pulling his passport. He's free to travel internationally. So the details of the case, I mean, I read the statement from the guy who he, I guess, had his little act of road rage against. It's one-sided. It's that guy's story. It kind of read like the guy said Cash was driving erratically. He pulled off to the curb to let him pass. And as he passed, he had a semi-automatic pistol pointed at him. Seems like, okay, what else happened, dude? Hearing everyone talk about Cash prior to this, he seemed like a pretty level-headed guy. You never know how a guy really is, but it just seemed like really that's what caused him to pull his pistol. It just makes me wonder, like, what's the real story here? And if this was a crazy situation with a firearm, even in a state like Florida, which I believe has a stand your ground law, they're not going to let some guy just roam who brandished a weapon against someone. You're going to be, I don't know all the legalities of it, but it seems like they know a little bit. AEW knows a little bit. They're aware of the case. Now, you dropping that Tony Khan found out when we all did, that I did not hear that. That's crazy to me. So he didn't know on July 28th. He found out like 3 days ago.
Rumor and innuendo said that. So it seems like that was the biggest driving point of what AEW side was trying to figure out is why didn't they know? And maybe it is just like they said, trying to make them look better because he's been on TV, after that. So maybe they want to make it seem like they didn't get all the details yet, but that would be my biggest thing. Of course, obviously, it seems like he's in the wrong, obviously, pulling a gun out in traffic or whatever. We don't know all the details. But really, the other piece is letting your employer know so you're not kind of caught with your pants down. That is a huge piece, too, because Tony Khan finding this out on a Thursday or Friday morning, it's not a good look for them because he's doing a lot of media going into this London show. And then if this gets dropped, one of a guy who really has been drama free. I know FTR has been really the focal point of a hurricane of drama, but it's mostly been Dax. Like Cash has been out of you don't really even hear Cash talk about anything. And Dax has been more outspoken than him. And just by association with Dax and Punk, I guess Cash gets thrown in. My point is he has been not really controversy driven. And this is out of character for him. And again, we don't know the man personally, but this is his first kind of run in with the law. And who knows? I mean, I think Max said it best. He said, quote, "We're all flawed. We all make mistakes." Take it from a guy who made more mistakes than most. I've had my ups and downs with FTR, but Cash is a great dude and a badass. So again, I ask everybody just to wait for the details to come out. And even if it is something that he's completely in the wrong, it is what it is. I mean, the guy made a mistake. So let's just kind of keep that in perspective with the rest of our fandom. You know what I'm saying? Like people are still blind their tribalism, that they're looking at this as like, oh, well, see, FTR are bad people. Like they're not. This is just something, this happens across all walks of life. It's just very public information because Cash Wheeler is a celebrity.
Dude, the self-righteousness that comes out in fandom when a person in the public eye makes a misstep just makes me want to vomit. Like all the judgment comes out. like they've never made a mistake. Now imagine a mistake you've made that goes under the radar because you're just a civilian. Now imagine that mistake under a spotlight of public perception. People screw up. He didn't kill anyone. Everybody has momentary lapses, where something happens. Hell, I remember Russell Crowe threw a telephone at a hotel clerk. Like, he's fine. Nothing came from it. Not to compare, we're constantly comparing things in wrestling, but in my opinion, a road rage freak out that didn't end in violence. Yeah, he maybe brandished a weapon. That's fine. But to me, I can get over that quicker than someone having 3-4 DUIs.
True.
Like, to me, that is a bigger issue. That you are endangering people's lives. Not that a gun does it, but you know what I mean? Like, when you're consistently going out and drinking and driving, you could kill a family, you could kill a kid. I think it's more reckless to do that, especially when there's a history of it and you continue to do it. This is the first time we've ever sniffed anything from Cash Wheeler in this regard. The only other crazy thing he's ever done from a public perception outside the squared circle type of thing was when he sucker punched that dude who attacked Bret Hart. But I stand by him doing that. There was a lot of wrestlers getting some shots in on that douchebag who tackled Bret Hart on his biggest day, one of his biggest days. So I don't fault him for that. Like you said, and we can sit here and pontificate, but we really don't know the ins and outs of what happened. No one knows. But to Tony not saying he didn't know, he found out, or whoever said that Tony found out when we found out, that sniffs of PR spin to me. Because like you said, they're trying to, the fact that they've been booking him on TV, maybe to make themselves look a little better. I just can't believe that, Dax knew, they're so close, Cash told Dax. And I feel like if he would have told anyone, that person's probably going to be like, you need to tell Tony. I just can't see, like, even you said they were in the eye of the storm with all the controversy with CM Punk and the Bucks and everything. They were, but even throughout that, their relationship with Tony, you never heard Dax, even on his podcast, trash talking Tony. He always spoke highly of Tony. That was, and even when they were in the eye of that storm, that's when they were negotiating their new contract. They came back. Dax has taken a bigger step in the booking and the creative behind Collision. So they obviously have the respect of Tony Khan. So it's hard for me to believe that a warrant being issued for Cash Wheeler and he just doesn't tell Tony, when Tony is of influence in Florida. He's going to find this out. So it seems like a bonehead decision to let it sit for 3 weeks before he finds out. It sounds like PR spin to me. I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it is a PR spin because, again, you're trying to really, there's no reason he can't travel to London and compete. The only thing that would stop them is public perception. And really, wrestling companies have to deal with that all the time about putting people on their screen that maybe their on-screen character doesn't align with the values of their in-person character. And really what has to be decided here is, and I understand they have more details than we have. I think AEW and Tony Khan and the higher ups are able to have more information.
They always do, man.
So I think the fact that he's been on our TV and the fact that this has sort of kind of been under the radar for the last few weeks and it just comes out now makes me believe that they did know, and that also that they don't perceive it as a big deal. And is there ever a reason to do that? I don't know. Maybe there is, because we don't have the full story about what the other guy was doing. I'm not victim blaming the guy. I mean, there's scenarios where you lose your cool, and who knows? You don't know. And anyone that's been on the road anywhere, I mean, I live on Long Island and the roads are littered with people that are just out of their mind.
Yep.
And maybe Cash was that guy, but maybe he was responding to someone acting like all those people were referencing. And these are just jumps we're making and assumptions we're making. That's when you start to run into some trouble. Let the facts come out and let Cash Wheeler speak for himself. We haven't heard from him. We've heard through his lawyer. And this is all sort of much to do about nothing because, again, this was an incident that happened and luckily nobody was hurt. But it's to me, it's a bump in the road. And I think he's going to be back on our screens in a big way. And we're recording this before Collision takes air and they're supposed to be speaking. And from our perspective, the match is still happening. And, whether they do it at All In, there were some people talking like, oh, just wait till Chicago if you can't do the match. Why? It's a week apart. You might as well just do it at London.
No, if he has his passport and he could travel, do it. The only worry I have, I think, like you said, I think AEW knows about this. I think they don't deem it as a big deal. It's a bump in the road. This will be something that's forgotten. It's the hot button issue. News moves fast in wrestling. Fans will forget about this, and it'll just be a random mugshot meme of Cash Wheeler that pops up every so often in our future. Like it'll be a distant memory. But the only thing with this arrest that worries me, I hope this doesn't play into the booking of the finish. I hope whatever they had planned, I hope was planned with this not in mind. I hope this isn't like, well, let's take the belts off of them, put it on the Bucks, because I don't care who wins. I just hope that whatever story they had in mind is not altered by this. That's the only thing I'm worried about.
And we saw Dax post 2 days ago the pictures of him and Edge, and people were talking about Edge's contract coming up. We'll talk about the quick hitters that Edge clarified that his contract is up September 30th, so he can appear in London. Just for clarity, maybe again he's working us because he has been in the business for 30 years. But I guess that would be a nice substitute if Cash can't come. It's Dax and Edge versus Dax and Sexton Hardcastle versus the Young Bucks for the tag titles. But I think Cash is going to be there. And it's going to, again, this is bump in the road. It sucks because this is another controversy-driven topic that's not about Wembley. It's not about the attendance. It's not about the pomp and circumstance of the show. We're talking about the CM Punk controversy. Now we're talking about this as well. It's not good. I'd rather not be talking about this stuff, but unfortunately, it's part of the news cycle here.
I think the match happens. They could come out on Collision tonight and cancel it. I don't see that happening. I think the match happens, and I think it's one of the matches of the night. I think these two teams have been feuding well before the Revival ever made their way to AEW and became FTR. They were always taking pot shots through Twitter, through social media at each other. This is a feud that's been brewing. We got the first one at Full Gear with very minimal crowd, and then they had the Dynamite match. And the fact that these two teams have been in this company together for, I guess you could say, a little over 3 years. FTR joined in 2020. And they've only had 2 matches is crazy to me. In a lot of ways, you're like, man, they should have had more matches, but I like that it's special. Every time they meet up, it feels like a big deal. And to have the rubber match at your biggest show, I think they're going to show out. And I think this match has the possibility to absolutely steal the night. And I think with this arrest looming, I think it's going to bring the fire out of both teams. I think they're coming in to show that this isn't affecting them in the ring. All of that's outside of the ring, and we're going to lay it all on the line here. And this is one of my most anticipated matches of the night. Arguably behind MJF and Adam Cole, this is it for me. I love these two teams equally. I'm a bit of an FTR guy just because they're around my neck of the woods, but I love the Bucks. And I love the magic these teams create when they're in the ring together. So I cannot wait to see this match.
Yeah, and I think also the big other piece is that these two teams don't get along, and the fact that they're able to put their differences aside. And again, that's all from the perceptive, but I think everyone can make the assumption that they're in two different camps, and FTR being the closest friends of CM Punk and the Bucks being really in the fist fight that everyone talks about, a brawl out. It's a big deal that they're working together. Maybe this is the olive branch that's needed to get that program to work. And there's been conversation about, with the Turnbuckle Tavern crew and elsewhere, is the feud even worth happening at this point because of all the stuff that's been coming out now? Is it better just to keep them separated? But as the Offspring would say, but I think it's this match is going to be awesome. And this is a nice precursor to really the best type of work that's done in wrestling, where real life story kind of merges into the on-screen story. And some of the best rivals were not fans of each other. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were not friends. They weren't sharing dinner together, but we know they can make magic in the ring. And I think they're going to be trying to one up each other in the ring. And that's the best part. Athletically, they're going to try to really take it to the next level. And like you said, I think this match could be one of the matches of the night, if not the match of the night.
Yeah, the beauty of this match to me is, like you just laid out, it's all the story behind the scenes. It's that this could be a bridge into mending fences where we do get elite Punk at a certain point. It's the fact, the biggest thing for me, it's the complete just differing philosophies of what tag team pro wrestling is. That's why when these teams meet, it's something special, because you have drastically different philosophies and they still find a way to make both of their things work within the context of their match together. And I always love seeing it, because, you know, the first match ended because Cash Wheeler went for a high spot. I think it was like he went for a flip, missed it. The Bucks win the titles off of him. And there's a lot of good storytelling in that. Like, he should have just did his kicks and punches, but he went for that flip that they never do, and it cost him the match. Things like that they pull out. And I think they're very, even though they're not buddies, they're not going to Christmas dinner together, these teams respect the shit out of each other. And there's a respect where they're both allowing the other to shine in the way that the fans like them to shine. So they each get those spots where they look the best. They look like the teams that we love and what we love them for. So they're not sandbagging each other. Even though there's contention and differing philosophies, they find a way to find that chemistry and create magic. And I think this match will be no different.
True professionals in the ring. And let's talk about the other professionals for the rest of the card here at All In.
Big Story 3.
All right, so we talked about two of the matches here, but we also have some other matches to talk about here from London. Of course, we have the AEW Women's World Championship on the line in a four-way. Hikaru Shida defending her newly won AEW Women's Championship against Toni Storm, the former champion, Britt Baker, the former champion as well, and Saraya looking for her first ever gold in her hometown. So there's been a lot of rumbling, and rightfully so, about the lack of build with the women's division and lack of showcase. Hotshot the title on Shida as a solution. Talking about injuries kind of affecting it, the lack of Jade Cargill on her screen, and Thunder Rosa. Hopefully she's on the return as well. But for now, we have this four-way that feels like it's been half-baked. This mini tournament they did was half-hearted, not great. Shida right now, she's only been champion for what, 3 weeks, and now going championship match and defense, feels like she's about to lose it. And I think honestly, you can look at Saraya as
100%,
maybe trying to get it on, and maybe that's the way to hotshot it on her. But not too high in this match. I think the women will be given some time here, but we'll see what happens.
No, this is a total hotshot, man. Like, this is when they took it off of Tony. It's a way to, it was a transition to get the belt onto Saraya. Like, I don't think they want to break up the Outcasts. I think they have something in store for them, hopefully. Like, this women's division has been so lacking lately, but I do think Shida, I think it's a hot shot of, okay, let's get the title off of Tony so we can get it on Saraya at All In. Tony Khan, unlike Vince McMahon, loves having talent have big positive moments in their hometown. What bigger moment than UK's own Saraya winning a world title for the first time in AEW? I mean, that writes itself. If I was a betting man and I could lay my money down and predict what's going to happen here, I think Saraya definitely wins. But I think the big moment, the even bigger moment here, is going to be after she is crowned new champion. I think we get Jade Cargill coming out and staking her claim as the next rightful heir. I think Jade does show up at All In. She was backstage at Dynamite last week. It came out. So I think Jade shows up goes eye to eye with Saraya. And I'm hoping that this lack of attention and this lack of storytelling in the women's division, we talked about MJF and Adam Cole possibly setting the map and the stage for the next year or so. I hope this match at least sets the stage for the rest of 2023, where we can see, oh, Saraya, heel champion, with Tony and the Outcasts behind her, and Jade coming in as a newly minted babyface, challenging for the world title that she rightfully deserves a shot at.
So we also have the Stadium Stampede match on here. And this, again, we reference how Wembley is one of the main stars, if not the biggest star of this show. We have Eddie Kingston teaming with the Lucha Brothers, also Orange Cassidy, best friends on that side, taking on the Blackpool Combat Club, and three TBA partners here. So we don't know, and maybe on Collision they announced who it would be. Again, Stadium Stampede, there's been a very much of a lack of a build for this event. We had for last Stadium Stampede, it was hot-blooded feuds. There was a lot of stuff going on. The best friends in the BCC, I guess you could make the argument that there's been a lot of heat. And of course, Penta and Phoenix have got their mask stolen by Claudio. So there's a little bit of the build here. Does it warrant a big match like the Stadium Stampede? Probably not. But I would say, again, they're trying to showcase every part of the arena in and out. So this is a way to get Wembley on our screen in a bigger way than just showing the seats in the arena. They want to make sure you see all the different bowels and the historic places inside of Stadium Stampede. I'm pretty excited for this match. I think it will kind of yield some good moments, but I don't think it's going to live up to the original Stadium Stampede, which we know and love. But I'm curious your thoughts on it.
I mean, I think it's one of those ones I'm not super, super stoked on, but I'm sure it'll be a fun match to watch. I was really stoked on an international title match between Orange and Moxley. I do get it though. First stadium show. I'm not used to saying stadium with AEW. First stadium show. I think there is kind of a want and a need from Tony to put as many of his guys on this show as he can. You're not going to have everybody there. It's just, I wouldn't be shocked if there was a battle royal on 0 Hour announced that has all the rest of the guys in it. Because I think when I look at this Stadium Stampede, especially the best friends and Lucha Brothers and Kingston, those are guys who have kind of been road dogs for your company. You want them in there. You want them in a featured match. The big question mark for me is, who are the three guys that line up with BCC? And I think there's a possibility Bryan Danielson shows his face in this match. With it being a match like this, a gimmick match, he could easily somehow pop up, be involved, have a spot here. I think it's a big, big possibility that Danielson shows up in some way, but I'm still pretty clueless about who's going to be these three guys that align themselves with the BCC. Do you have any thoughts on who it could be, Ace?
Maybe Chris Hero, because I know he's been taken on as an agent. Maybe they bring him into the fold, but that leaves it open for the other two. Like you said, maybe Danielson can be a part of it in some way. Then they would want his return to be a little bigger than that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think the other two that'd be involved. Like, as far as making sense with the rest of the guys in the match, like you said, Orange and Moxley have been lined up. The Lucha Brothers and Claudio and Wheeler have been lined up. And of course, looking at Eddie Kingston, he really has no kind of dog in the race here because he's been at G1, just coming back and wanting to be involved in some stuff. And we know the history with Moxley is already well written, and Claudio. So just kind of picking up the pieces there. I don't know. I really don't know who's going to be involved here. I think they would have been better suited just announcing three other guys, because I think whoever it's going to be is probably going to be a disappointment. I think once you put TBAs out there with the graphic of three mystery people, everybody starts getting their hopes up, hoping it's going to be some crazy debut. But I asked the question, like, would you want someone debuting in this Stadium Stampede match, which is meant for the era of cinematic matches during the pandemic? Like, that's what the Stadium Stampede was originally slotted for, to create some excitement without the audience there. So yeah, I'm kind of lukewarm on the Stadium Stampede concept as far as continuing in a time where in front of a big crowd, you're not going to have them competing really in front of the crowd. It's like in some of the matches, some of this match might be pre-taped too. That's the other piece that we kind of forget about Stadium Stampede. I don't know. I almost rather them just do this big match in the ring and just like screw the Stadium Stampede concept and just have them go at it in a big hodgepodge tag match.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility that this coming Dynamite, you see these three men get involved somehow. A dark horse, kind of a letdown possibility. I wouldn't be super stoked on this, but they're there on the card would be Roosh and his boys.
True.
Like you to kind of even it out with the Lucha Brothers, like you bring in Roosh and
Jalisco and I guess maybe I'm trying to think of one more person that could be in there.
I mean, Preston Vance, but he's in that crew, but I don't know if he's going to get the rub.
If they do that, they have to announce it on Dynamite. You can't go into the event and have these mystery guys like, who's it going to be? And it winds up being, I'm sorry, if it winds up being Preston Vance, people are going to be disappointed.
They're going to be disappointed. You have to shoot an angle unless it's a major surprise that you're keeping in your back pocket that's worthy of it. I'm really at a loss unless they want to throw just fan favorite people that aren't on the card. There's a lot of big names that are not lined on this card. Miro, Hobbs, like a lot of those dudes are not featured on a big, but maybe they're saving them for All Out. So
yeah, it's complicated too, because you need three heels too. And like Chris Hero fits because we had talked about him. And I know that Tony Khan's hinted it might be the perfect precursor match for him to be in there. You don't have to be too tested athletically. You can kind of hide some of the flaws and ring rust in a match like this. So it would not shock me to see Chris Hero, but yeah, we'll definitely see who the other guys are. And hopefully they announce it on Dynamite leading up, because like I said, if you go in with the three mystery graphics that are going into the show, everybody's going to think it's some huge debut and you're going to let them down.
I think they shoot an angle on Dynamite. I don't think it's going to be. At first, I was like, "What's another trio that isn't featured that needs to be on the card?" And I was thinking, I mean, it's an unholy union, but House of Black could potentially be having a trios match against the Acclaimed. So,
yep. But we also have the coffin match: Sting and Darby Allin versus the Mogul Embassy, Swerve Strickland and AR Fox, and kind of to tie this in with the quick hitter story that we were going to be talking about, with them showing up at a goddamn indie show. So imagine you're at an Atlanta indie show and you must be thinking you're having some sort of acid trip, because Sting shows up at a Thursday night, which is not even just a regular indie show, WWA4, which is a wrestling school. They hold weekly shows in their independent promotion for the students and some local fans. And we had Sting showing up and attacking AR Fox. And it was interesting because it was AR Fox's school and Sting and Darby were getting booed. So that was, the footage lives there. But it's funny that AR Fox is so popular in that area that Sting was getting booed. But crazy build for this. This has been a lot of heat on it. Swerve Strickland has been absolutely on fire, in my opinion. They have a main eventer in the waiting, and when they want to pull the trigger on it, he's someone who's absolutely gold as far as his character. They figured out exactly who he is. Coffin match is a cool stipulation, especially now that's become Darby's match. You know how the casket match and Buried Alive was for the Undertaker. Darby Allin's coffin match, I think is his fourth, right?
Yeah.
It's been a lot of them. And the Mogul Embassy has been amazing too. AR Fox edition, it's been so much fun. And obviously Nick Wayne ties into this and all the other story that we've been seeing. Can't say enough nice things about this. And I get to see Sting at All In, and I originally was fantasy booking Sting having his retirement match against MJF in a big stage, but this is a nice, if you're not going to get that, this is cool to have him in a match with some heat on it. This has some heat.
Yeah, I think he's not ready to quit yet. I think Tony Khan has talked him into, hang around a little more, and Sting just loves it. You can tell he's still having fun, and this is the second best story on this card. I have been all in on this. The whole Pacific Northwest connection with Nick Wayne and Swerve and Darby. I love the way they work together. And Swerve, like you said, man, he is a main eventer in waiting. I something about the dude, charisma, the character, his in-ring work is phenomenal. We never saw this Swerve in NXT. Like this swerve, he's on another level. I think he's even beefing up. He looks like he's putting size on, and I'm stoked for this. Sting, 80,000. He's only ever experienced that at Mania. And when he experienced that at Mania, they did not do him justice. They had him
during the day where his entrance should have been dark out. And that was just that wasn't even the worst part about it.
Yeah, the whole NWO helping him, like none of it made sense from a story. I get you want to have all these stars come out, DX, NWO, but he ends up losing to Triple H. And I just think the typical WWE booking a WCW legend. And man, Tony is going to give him that big moment in front of 80 plus thousand. And I think we're going to see him get the pin. He's going to get the win. Tony has been booking Sting like an absolute icon, and I think it continues.
Do you think we're going to be getting more of the Joker Sting, or is that a one-off on Dynamite? Because God, I hope not. I'm not a big fan of Joker Sting.
I hope it's a one-off. I hope that was just kind of they had a contact high from Jeff Jarrett being in that Texas Chainsaw Massacre match or something and went down a TNA rabbit hole. I hope he comes out in full blown, 1997, 98 Crow. That's the sweet spot for me. And please God, don't dip into the 92 Surfer Sting, because I don't think Sting could handle a dye job like that right now at this point in his career. But yeah, man, you got to lean into the Crow. I don't want to see any more Joker. I like seeing Sting have fun. You can tell he's just being goofy and having fun, but just for like the sake of 80,000, I don't want to see the Joker thing going on. He's kind of playing the hits though. He is playing the hits a little bit with this run in AEW. So it didn't shock me that popped up, but I hope it's not at Wembley. I hope we get Icon, the Sting we all love.
Do we know if you need to toss both guys? Because I don't know if I've ever seen a tag coffin match. Did toss both dudes in the coffin? Is AR Fox
I don't know.
They go in there.
I don't know how they're going to handle that. They should probably clarify that. Are there going to be two coffins, one coffin? Right.
And we also have Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay. This has been really the feud that's been going on between Chris Jericho and Don Callis, is wooing him to kind of shed the Jericho Appreciation Society. They've disappeared, and now we have Will Ospreay coming to the fold, and Will Ospreay is arguably the best wrestler in the world right now. He's been putting on the best matches across the board in the G1 tournament. Also, he has really the two top matches against Kenny Omega that are probably everybody's de facto matches of the year. This is a high task for Chris Jericho to come in there and match some of these high-level contests that he's had. And Will Ospreay is fresh off the G1 where he carried Naito through half of a match where Naito was concussed and didn't even know where he was, and it still was one of the best matches. And Dave Meltzer said it was probably one of the best matches in Naito's career. So it just shows what a high level that Will Ospreay is working at. Chris Jericho playing the babyface here in front of an England crowd. Obviously, Will Ospreay is going to be beloved, but I think if anyone can get a hometown audience to turn on him, it'd be Will Ospreay. He has the ability to work the crowd really well. He'll figure out a way to get the boos and have Jericho get cheered. Very curious about the reaction of this match and also the high level of quality. Jericho is really marking this as he wants to still show he can go. And Will Ospreay is the barometer of who the best in the world is right now. I don't think there's really an argument about who the best wrestler pound for pound is. I think it has to be Ospreay, and it's a big test for Jericho.
It's a big test for Jericho. Ospreay he's one of those guys, he can make a lot of people look good. I do think there's this level of disrespect from fans towards Jericho right now. Oh, it's Jericho. Oh, Ospreay's going to have to carry him. I'm like, dude, is he 1998 Jericho? Is he 2009 Jericho? No, but this dude still puts on entertaining wrestling matches to me. Like, I don't see a guy who is like hobbling around in there, unable to do matches. I think he's done some of his best work storytelling wise. And I think these two guys are going to go out to kind of show that they can have a good match together. Is it going to be Omega Osprey? No. Like, of course not. I think the right move, as much as we want to see it, when they booked Osprey Omega at Forbidden Door, I kind of figured it wasn't going to happen at All In. In a way, I was just like, it's too soon to go back to that well already. I think they're probably going to wrap that up maybe at Wrestle Kingdom, but I like that it's a different flavor here. I don't know. I'm a Jericho mark too, so maybe it's just my fandom kind of blurring me from. But I just can't stand the disrespect from all the fans. Anytime a wrestler gets up in age, people come out and they want to ship them off to pasture, and then when they're gone, they whine about how much better it was when they were around. I'm kind of living in the moment and respecting the fact that he's still here, he's still delivering, and he still can deliver. You know, a lot of people hate Tom Brady. They want to see him leave the league. And then when he leaves, it's like, damn, Brady's gone. Kobe Bryant, damn, Kobe's gone. You know, respect and kind of honor and appreciate your legends while they're still doing it, because one day it'll just be a video you can watch of them on the network or on whatever AEW streaming service happens. Like, at one point, everything that they've done will be in the rearview mirror. And the fact that there's still a little bit left for Jericho in the windshield, appreciate that. He's going to be in a match with one of the greatest wrestlers working today. That's exciting. And it's a rub for Osprey to be like, I had a match against Chris Jericho in front of 80,000 people. That's a feather in his cap. You know what I mean? It's not just a feather in Jericho's cap to be put in there with the greatest, one of the greatest working today. That's a big rub for Osprey to be in there with this guy at this level. So appreciate it, man. Don't people are always spinning it negative when it comes to an aging wrestler. And I think it's cool to see a guy in there mixing it up with one of the best.
Before moving on, who do you see going over in that match?
Man. I mean, it makes sense storyline wise. If this is the end, Jericho, because they've been this whole Callus situation, but I don't know if they have Will for more dates. I could see Osprey winning in the UK and kind of, you know, threading something into All Out in Chicago. That could very well. I don't know if every match is going to just be like a rematch at All Out, but I think we're going to see a little bit of that. And this could be one of those matches where Jericho likes to work with guys more. Jericho doesn't do a lot of one-offs. Usually if he's tied up with a guy, it's going to spawn into something else. So if I had to pick gun to head, I think Osprey wins.
Same here. I don't see a situation where Chris Jericho does win this match, especially with Will Ospreay coming off of losing the G1 matches in those finals. I think they need to make sure that he's booked strong, as you mentioned, going into Wrestle Kingdom and big programs. He is really New Japan's one of the biggest stars there, so they got to keep him strong. And Jericho, we mentioned guys last week about like Tanahashi, guys that are just at this level. Jericho can take losses and just bounce back. And the Callus factor as well. I think Callus plays a part, and there's a built-in story where Callus can cost him the match, and then
he can cost him the match. And if you look down the list of all the marquee matches Jericho's been on in AEW pay-per-views and big-time Dynamite matches, his win-loss percentage, he's lost a lot of matches. He's lost a lot more than he's won. So
we also have the Golden Elite teaming together. Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Hangman Page taking on the Bang Bang Gang, Jay White and Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita. 6-man tag match. Ideally, Kenny Omega would not have been in the spot, and we saw the news drop from the newsletter this week that apparently Meltzer had heard through the grapevine that Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega 2 was likely the plan for All In had Danielson not broken his arm at Forbidden Door. He's expected to be returning in October. And the story has been obviously that the working idea would have been the rematch from the original Grand Slam, but instead we have Kenny Omega in this tag match. I know there's been some criticism with these are main stars, like Kenny Omega versus Takeshita seems like it's to be happening at All Out. But here we have getting the Golden Lovers together and Hangman Page, who's former world champion, one of the biggest stars in the company. Jay White, huge star too. This is a big 6-man tag match that people could make the argument that take away everything around it could have just been a match on Dynamite, and this would be building towards something bigger.
Yeah. I think this is the one that probably has me most upset. And I think a lot of fans are upset that it just because you have Kenny Omega and he's in a 6-man. It's like, at what point are you going to thrust this guy into top tier main event level matches? I understand that the working idea was to get him and Danielson in there to rip it up again like they did at Arthur Ashe. And, Danielson kind of broke his arm, so that didn't get to happen. But it's going to be a good match. And I think this also has a little bit of that. Well, if we can't get the match that we want with Danielson, let's try and get some guys on the card. So that's why you're having Jay White and all of these dudes kind of, you're allowing a lot more guys to get in front of this crowd. And I get the philosophy behind that. And I think it's honorable, but it is at the sacrifice of story, because this does feel like a Dynamite match.
So we also have 2 other announced matches that are right now unannounced, and Samoa Joe versus CM Punk is one of them. Feels like a foregone conclusion that we're going to get it here. I guess you can make the argument it could happen at, All Out in Chicago, but it feels like this is going to be for the real World Championship, CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. This match is history, and we were making the argument that giving this away on Collision was foolish or whatever it was, that they should have had more build, because it's the first time these two were touching the ring for a very long time, almost a decade, or more than a decade, I should say.
Almost 2 decades.
2 decades, I should say, yeah. So Samoa Joe and CM Punk on a big stage has some heat, and I like this if this is where they're going. But this, to me, is like the story is just getting started with CM Punk in this Real World Championship, because as I mentioned earlier with the Adam Cole and the MJF stuff going on, this is a big piece of, he plays a big part. So yeah, I think he has to kind of get over and build and beat Samoa Joe here and then go on to do different things. But I think they're going to put the conclusion, the finale of this program in AEW at least.
Yeah, I think the first matchup between them under AEW, the banner of AEW, I feel like was a ratings ploy for Collision. It takes a little bit of the steam off of this because it's kind of fresh in our minds. It would have been a bigger deal if we were going into this pay-per-view and they hadn't met in almost 20 years. But I think it's a good match. There's history with it. I do think Ricky Starks comes into play somehow in this match. I don't think he should be counted out. I think he's going to have a big part on this card. I think he does become a factor on this card. Obviously, in storyline, he's suspended for 30 days for his attack on Ricky Steamboat, but he did say he's starting a war. He will be there. He has his manager's license. I think he's going to show up, and he might screw Punk out of this match somehow. I don't know. I do think there's a possibility he gets involved in this.
And the other unannounced match right now is the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass versus House of Black for the Trios Championship. Of course, Billy Gunn was teasing retirement. House of Black has been carrying his boots around like a trophy. We saw him doing that with Andrade's mask. This has been sort of what House of Black has been doing. I'd be surprised if this match is not announced, because again, you have to have House of Black, one of your biggest acts, big championship match. And Acclaimed and Daddy S is a hot act as well. I know that they took them off the burner a bit here, but this crowd is ripe for the picking for having a match like this with the Acclaimed and Daddy S. I think atmosphere wise, you almost have to do it.
Yeah, I want to see that House of Black entrance in front of 80,000 people. I want to see Max Caster cut a rap in front of 80,000 people. I want to see the Acclaimed go over House of Black, and I want that to be a signal that Malachi is being pushed into a more prominent main event level scene. I want to see him feud with Punk. I want to see him feud with Ricky Starks. Collision needs some guys at the top in that singles division. We haven't seen that in a while. And I'm a big House of Black fan, but I would love to see the Acclaim get the pop, get the win, a shocking win. And then we talked about it with MJF and Adam Cole. We talked about the possibility of it with the women's division. I think a lot of these matches could be setting the stage for the next year of booking if done correctly. So hopefully something, I hope they're on the card. I hope it becomes announced. So.
Well, that's All In. We're looking forward to it. Of course, you guys can definitely check out the flagship for the final touches on the build. And also you guys can check out what is this, the next week for All In wrap up, I guess, because I think the AEW wrap up crew is going to be going live after the show at some point. So you're going to get all your fixings for it All In London. And of course, we'll be talking about it next week and the results and the fallout. And believe it or not, the build towards All Out, which is only a week away. So let's get into the quick hitters. Quick hitters. All right, for the quick hitters, let's get the CM Punk stuff out of the way. And we have some CM Punk drama that has been boiling over from last week. And we touched on it with the promo he cut on Collision, angled towards Hangman being a peg warmer. But more details emerged from different incidents. And most notably, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about them, just kind of feeding the drama. But the issue with CM Punk and Ryan Nemeth, where he didn't want him at the Greensboro Collision taping, and also the issue he had with Jack Perry, for Jack Perry wanting to be ridden off TV with actual glass. And then people were tying in this with Jack Perry liking a tweet that was negative towards Punk. Same thing with Ryan Nemeth. He had tweeted softest man alive after the Punk promo. Tied in all this, Chad, was CM Punk issuing an apology to Hangman via text message. Not sure how that was finished, whatever. At least CM Punk did apologize, but I guess your thoughts on this. I'm kind of exhausted talking about the CM Punk situation. More drama as we build towards All In, which we should be talking about the in-ring action, but this kind of clouded a lot of the bullshit that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like a bunch of softies, man. Like from all angles. Like Punk is soft. If somebody likes a tweet or doesn't like a tweet, he gets mad about it. Hangman and them, who knows about the peg warmer thing? He had an issue or an apology about that. I do think that was coming from a place of like twisted humor, and he's a bit of an asshole, and it probably did not go over like he thought it would, and caught more fire than he thought it would. I'm sick of it too, man. I'm sick of all he's saying that this person can't be at this show, and there's a lot of like contradictions going on in that too, because they were filming ROH stuff at Dynamite, and a lot of the faces that are showing up on ROH now are people that Punk isn't really associated with, like Colt Cabana and Brandon Cutler being a tag team, and they film ROH on Collision. Like, who knows what's really going on behind closed doors? A lot of it's just hearsay coming from moles that are leaking stuff to, the Meltzers of the world, and it's being reported on. Who knows what spin these moles are giving it to these guys? I don't know, man. I'm just sick of all of it. I wish everyone would just toughen up a little bit. Punk, quit being so sensitive. Bucks, get over your bullshit and work with the guy. I'm just over it, man. I think all of the fans and here's the big thing. I mentioned this before I think it was on the debate. Brian Alvarez said to Dave Meltzer, fans just need to move on. The feud's not going to happen. They just need to move on. It's not going to happen. And let's get it over with and go. Newsflash, bud. This will not go away ever until that angle is shot. It won't. Every time something's said in the press or some veiled promo is given, like a counterfeit buck, anytime anything like that happens, the internet is going to light up with fans saying, oh, this, maybe it's happening. Maybe. That will never stop until this angle is shot. So unless you want this big elephant in the room for the rest of these two talents being being under contract to the same company, you have to book that angle or it'll always be there. I mean, do you think it's ever going to go away if they don't, unless Punk leaves the company or the Bucks leave the company, which we know they're both signed up for several years. It's going to be there.
I think you're right. I think the only way it gets settled is because even if you say it's not going to happen, even living in our Tavern little family here, no matter what's said, it's going to be like, well, that's him hinting at the match because he said it's never going to happen. So like, I think, like you said, even if Punk leaves or the Bucks leave or whatever, this will always be there because he could return and they drop him. It's always going to be there. And it's kind of this thing that feeds itself. It's a monster that continues to grow based on rumor and innuendo, because that's the kayfabe we live in now. And this is what happens when you blur the line. Sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's not good, because when stuff is actually real, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like that was all a work. We were working you all this time with blurring the line of reality with BTE and all that stuff. And now this is real. Please don't pay attention to it. And it's like, oh yeah, really? It's not. So wrestling fans want to believe this is going to happen. And
pro wrestling, baby,
exactly.
Like, always that out.
I want the Jungle Boy thing, because I think looking at the other situations, this is the byproduct of him. Well, this is the byproduct of Punk being the way he is. So situations where he is in the right get kind of turned into a situation where he's being caustic. And for example, this Jack Perry thing, if you read this, really what he's saying, he was looking out for Jack Perry's safety, not wanting him to use real glass. And he wanted to make sure that he had his safety in mind. CM Punk was right in this situation, but because of all the other stuff going around, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that no matter what happens, discussions are being portrayed as arguments, and kind of picking and choosing the crew you want to work with. And even people like Christopher Daniels, well-respected in the industry, is head of talent relations, not allowed a collision. That starts to create this petty effect where he's saying because Ace Steel is not allowed to be in person, that means Chris Daniels can't be in person because, well, they were both there. And that is a slippery slope, because again, and this is a situation only Tony Khan can fix. And they're going to have to sort of face this fact next week when all the tapings are in-house together for the all-out bookings in Chicago. All these personalities are going to be there, and there's not enough arena to separate them. So they're going to have to find a way to make it work, or there's going to be issues with the black cloud of all out hanging over you. I would not be shocked if things are like this kind of boil over, because they're not getting settled. They continue to spiral into bigger things, whether it's small promos that are said in jest, whether it's stuff on BTE with the guys drinking Coke instead of Pepsi.
Right.
Things turn into big things. As you mentioned, and I think it's never going to be settled unless everybody gets in the room and sort of works a program and gets their energy out in the ring. Because until that point, it's always going to be an issue. And like I always, the one quote that kind of got me was, and I understand it was the promo in jest, and everyone's saying that if you were in the arena, you could tell CM Punk was being lighthearted about the peg warmer promo, is kind of taking aim at the heart and soul angle, where you've heard interviews, most notably from Bryan Danielson, who has been locker room leader in a lot of ways. And he's not there right now because he's hurt, but maybe he's backstage. Punk saying the stuff about being the heart and soul and making fun of it. It's kind of the first time he's taking aim at someone like Bryan Danielson's words. And I'm curious how that sits with Bryan Danielson, because we heard Moxley talk about his shit on the Chris Van Vliet thing. He was on also Renee's podcast. He didn't talk about Punk directly, but he talked about the situation and really at large. He didn't want a part of the controversy and talked about how stupid everything is and how frustrated he is with it. I'm sure this does not sit well with the leadership team across the board. People that are not involved directly with the relationships of the elite or the CM Punk camp. People that are in the middle, like a Danielson, like a Moxley, like a Jericho, that's just like, can we get over this already, guys?
Yeah, I do think Danielson's sense of humor, though, is a little bit more along the lines of CM Punk. He is known to be a shit stirrer. He's got a little bit more edge on his comedy. I don't think he took offense to that. And like, he seems like a man's man. He's got kids he's got to worry about. He's not worried about that shit. I think they do get a little upset because it's like, the more you do it, the longer it goes on. But here's the thing. No matter what, even if they all stopped making these comments, it's still going to be there. Everything is going to be under a microscope until they shoot this angle. Now, Meltzer said that CM Punk has tried to reach out to mend fences with the elite, and that has been a no-go right now. And because of fear of, legal things coming into play. My whole take on this, obviously fans want to see this storyline happen. But bigger than that, if you call yourself a leader, whether you have the EVP title or you're just a self-imposed locker room leader like CM Punk claims to be, these little situations with Jack Perry and Nemeth and all of these people, if you want to be a leader and stop the locker room dividing itself into camps, Jungle Boy's a SoCal guy. He's definitely, Bucks brought him in. He's on that side. And then you've got your people on the Punk side. If you want to be a leader, you have to show the locker room that you guys are together, that you're cool with each other. Because if there's a division at the top, which there obviously is, Punk's team, Punk and the Elite, if there's a division there, everyone else will follow suit and divide. If you truly want to bring the locker room together, you have to lead by example and show that you're cool with these guys. And then all of this, like taking sides and getting upset at this or that, that'll stop, because it's like, oh, they're cool with each other. Why do we care what side we're on? That starts at the top. It starts with Tony Khan. It goes down to the Elite and Punk. Until that is fixed, the locker room will consistently have these issues with Danielson or Chris Daniels and comments being made and Jack Perry flipping out over something that he shouldn't have flipped. All of that's going to continue to happen, man. That's why, more so than just giving the fans the story, I think doing the story serves several masters. One, it pleases the fans because we want to see it, but it also shows the locker room, oh, they've put it behind them. Because with them not working together and not doing that angle, to me, it tells the locker room it's not behind them. There's a problem here, so I have to pick a side. Whose side am I on? It's just, be a leader, man. Put it behind you and move on.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, I just have to really just take aim at Punk and, quote, angrily and aggressively confronting Ryan Nemeth in the locker room and kind of threaten to fight him over a tweet. It's like, that is the most hypocritical shit that could ever happen. As a leader, you should be, you could call him out for what he said and say that doesn't add to the culture, but you challenging a catering level talent to a fight in the locker room about it. And again, this is not Meltzer, by the way. This is PW Torch and Wade Keller and stuff. So, and by all accounts, it did happen. That doesn't settle anything. So it's just like, it only creates more of a divide across the different platforms.
It's the divide that comes down from the top to the bottom, because taking Punk's side on that, Punk sees that as, that's an old school way to handle it. That is old school wrestling way. You're a catering wrestler. You're not on our weekly shows. How dare you talk shit about a top guy? What was the old business? You come in, if you're a jobber coming in, you go around, you shake everybody's hand, you show respect. Coming from an old school mentality, Nemeth doing that, even in the social media world, saying he's soft, that's a slight. So should Punk have reacted that way? Probably not. It's a new age, but at the same time, it's like, that's old school, man. That's old school. Take it for what it is, but that's old school.
But it goes against all the culture that was built in AEW in the first place. It was built on wrestlers that are against the grain, and they're new school.
Yeah.
Young Bucks, it's a different era of wrestling that is maybe.
But you can't lose the old school though.
100%. But I think that's also just maybe just the mindset is just completely different. And I think that's a big piece of it as well. Not even just the personalities, it's how they approach the business. And maybe Punk coming in and looking at it from his lens, he thinks he's right. And the same thing with the Bucks. They believe they're right. So it's a messy situation that will not be settled unless the leadership team, most notably Tony Khan and everybody there, gets everybody on the same page and tells them, you're doing the story, you're doing the match, and you need to do business here because it's going to help us financially, but it's also going to soothe over some of these burns that continually just get reopened. It's these wounds that just won't heal because you continue to really poke holes in them. And how could the bleeding stop if you never put a bandage on it and you really let it heal?
If you act like men, you come together, you tell a great story, all of this goes away. Everything. If you don't, shit continues. So pick your poison.
So shit will continue on the way to Payback. We have Shinsuke Nakamura slated to appear on Raw this Monday night. He's going to have a live microphone on Monday's episode of Raw, and he's going to reveal what he whispered into Seth Rollins' ear this past Monday. So this is the program that is set for Rollins. I have to say I'm a big fan of Shinsuke Nakamura getting a main event type of feud. It seems like he's going to be taking him on September 2nd at Payback. This is for the World Heavyweight Championship, and we get a heel Nakamura versus a face Seth Rollins. We're going to see what happens on Monday's Raw in Quebec City, Quebec, Canada. But I like Shinsuke at the top of the card. I think it's been, we've talked about him. He won the Royal Rumble. He wrestled AJ Styles for the championship at Mania. I believe it was at 34. And here we are now, years later. He's still a top guy in my mind.
Yeah, I like that he's finally back in the spotlight of a main event level, world title, albeit the participation trophy title. But yeah, I love seeing Nakamura in this. I just hope they follow through with it. I hope he doesn't have this one-off match lose and then he's back to, mid-card obscurity. So we'll see how it goes.
Speaking of champions, we have Sonata. He is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He posted on Instagram on Sunday revealing he was diagnosed with a distal biceps tendon rupture during the G1 tournament. We're unclear about where he got this injury, but he was bandaged up on August 5th against Chase Owens, and he's been kind of battling throughout the whole tournament. And Sonata wrestled on the tour, even though after his loss in the quarterfinals, he wrestled multi-man matches on Saturday and Sunday shows. We saw him go undefeated in the round robin portion, then eventually lost to Evil, which kind of sets up Evil to challenge for Sonata's IWGP World Heavyweight Championship down the line. He's not booked for the Multiverse show that's happening, or it happened yesterday as of recording when you're listening to this, but he's advertised to wrestle Jake something for the championship August 27th in Toronto for the IWGP Championship on the Impact platform. So Sonata biceps tendon rupture, that's not like you're a little bit banged up. That's a serious injury he's working through.
Yeah, it's a hard tournament, man. Takes its toll. I'm not shocked. I mean, he had a good showing, but yeah, I'm not shocked by the injury. It is a pretty serious one, though. Like you said, it's not just a little nick, a bicep tendon rupture. I wonder if it keeps him out of a lot moving forward.
So we also have Edge giving an update on his WWE contract, which is slated to expire. So we saw on Friday his final match was against Sheamus, and apparently, according to the Sportsnet's The Fan morning show in advance of the match, Edge stated that his contract is up at the end of September. He said he's really considering retiring, that he hasn't really put a lot of thought into what's next, but this could be it. He went into the match with Sheamus, which was a really good match, kind of gave hugs and got applauses and gorilla and all that stuff. So it felt like it could be the end of the story. I think he's entitled to more of pomp and circumstance as far as end of career goes. I don't think it should happen on a random SmackDown, but the fact that it was in his hometown, I guess maybe you can make the argument, okay, this is kind of what he's been wanting to do. And it was his 25th anniversary of his WWE debut there. So it's kind of poetic and serendipitous that you would have it happen there. But there's also the question of maybe he gets offered a lot of money to come over to AEW and start doing business there. Your thoughts on that, Chad? Do you eventually see Adam Copeland coming over to Dynamite or Collision?
100% book it. He's on his way. 100%. There has been multiple things that have made me believe this has been a long time coming. I think Dax had a quote. This was when their contract situation was still up in the air. Right around the time they re-signed, someone floated the idea of going into a match with Edge and Christian. And he said, I think the person had said, we wish that we want you to come to WWE. And he said in a roundabout way, we may not need to leave AEW for that match to happen. It's easier. It's more plausible that could happen than you think. And Edge made the comment he would love to have a match with Christian. Hardy Boys in AEW. Edge and Christian go down the little nostalgia route. FTR has always wanted to have that match. Everything Edge has said screams of this isn't retirement. He's never said this was retirement. It's just, I don't know, man. The vibe I'm getting from everything I've heard Edge say, every interview he's given, it sounds like he wants to go to a place where he can really sit back, pick and choose his spots, have a final run with the kid. He posted that picture of him and Christian as kids. And I'm like, I think he's tied up the loose end that was his WWE career. And now he wants to finish it up with the guy, the best friend who he fell in love with wrestling with. It just makes sense to me. It just makes total sense. And people forget when Edge was before he made his debut at the Rumble and came back, he was being heavily courted by AEW. So take that for how you want. I think Tony's going to throw the book at him and try to get him in AEW. And I think it's going to happen. I really do. I really think he's going to come to AEW.
It's worth more of a conversation, but I think everyone probably would be in agreement that his WWE return was not great. I think it was circumstantial with pandemic era, happened right after that Rumble return, and he had to kind of be in the the Thunderdome and all that stuff. And I just think they haven't done enough with him, and it kind of sucks. And we saw that happen with Cena. It happened with Kurt Angle and Edge. It seems like what they used to be really good at is saying goodbye to their legends.
They're not anymore.
They haven't been good at it. I mean, Taker got a nice send-off with the Boneyard match, but it's Taker. So he kind of is deserving of that. And we can go back to Ric Flair's final match and Shawn Michaels' final match. Like, that was what it used to be. And now Edge kind of goes out on a SmackDown against Sheamus. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't a good match, and it wasn't his hometown. It was 25 years, but I don't know. I mean, that should be pay-per-view level. He should be kind of.
I'm with you, man.
I don't know.
I'm with you because now you said his return hasn't been, what we expected. I think his debut was incredible. When he 100%. Came back at the Rumble, everyone lost their shit. He had a couple good matches, but as far as like it left a lot to be desired with me, the way he was presented. He did start Judgment Day, so he kind of gave back to the business in that way. He came back, created an angle that is now super hot without him. But in my opinion, Christian's return has been overall better. He's been portrayed better. He's been put in a bigger light. People forget he beat Kenny Omega for the Impact title. Like, he shaped the Jurassic Express, all of that. I think Christian's had a better run, and I really think Edge is looking at the way AEW handles like nostalgia acts, especially Sting and Christian. They've had pretty good runs over there. Maybe that's appealing to him.
So you referenced Judgment Day, and in the new edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer provided a look at where WWE could be going with the Judgment Day storyline. And he said, while things could change, the long-term plan is currently for Damian Priest to be out of the Judgment Day, and also that JD McDonough will join the group, although that's not 100% confirmed. We know the growing tension between Priest and Finn Balor in recent months, and the tension led to Balor losing both championship matches for the World Heavyweight Championship against Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. We know Priest is the Money in the Bank holder. Balor's friendship with McDonough has recently contributed to tension between Balor and the rest of Judgment Day. I think infusing another member in there would be an awesome kind of side plot where it felt like Judgment Day was going to be broken up, but maybe adding somebody else in. JD McDonough seems like would be a much better fit to me than a lot of people expected. And having him in there and Damian Priest leaves, it kind of feeds both of the paths you want to go on. Have a new babyface main eventer in Damian Priest, but also continue the Judgment Day and help build another star. JD McDonough doing a lot of things in NXT. Now he's on the Raw roster. It'd be cool to see him get kind of the rub from Judgment Day.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to keep the faction going. I think they've secretly wanted Damian Priest to be a hardcore babyface. I think they see something in him. Yeah, I'm all for it. I like injecting new blood and keeping that going. I don't want to see it just be an internal feud that kind of makes the faction combust. I want to see the faction continue because it's just now getting to the point where I feel like it is arguably the hottest act in the company outside of the bloodline.
Absolutely. And we also had Chris Jericho talking about just wrestling at large. And he brought up the match with Mike Tyson that they shot the angle for in AEW, but they never did, was going to be a cinematic match. And he said they were close to doing it in a New York street fight. They were deep in negotiations and they were going to do it in New York Alley with the idea of replicating the fight scene in They Live, but the deal didn't come through. Trivia note is that this adds to the list of promoters who wined and dined and took care of Tyson, thought it would wind up ending in a big money fight production that never happened. This has me thinking, because this was in the newsletter, maybe I'm thinking of the WWE time when he was there, because they had more meat on the bone for their feud. But cinematic matches were only new as of now. So I'd have to get more clarification. But either way, the culmination of this feud we're going to be getting, I think Mike Tyson has never made his in-ring debut. He's just been special enforcer. He sat ringside. He's never been in the ring like we've seen other non-wrestlers do. Could have been cool. And I know Bruce Pritchard was talking about Mike Tyson versus Stone Cold. We talked about that on the build to 1998 WWF. That's what they wanted, to have this big money match that can kind of transcend sports, but never really came to be. And Mike Tyson just kind of a missed opportunity in the wrestling landscape.
Yeah. Man, a fight scene replicating the They Live fight scene in a New York alley, that would have been awesome. I would have been all in on that. And that would have been the way to go, because you could totally control it in a cinematic way and make it look as good as you possibly could. Damn, that would have been pretty cool.
So we also have rumors of WWE and even AEW or another promotion and ESPN, at least when it comes to streaming, could pick up steam with comments by Burt Magnus, who is ESPN's president of content. This was in the newsletter today, and talking about just really how valuable WWE and wrestling at large has been. But, some of the stuff we've seen here with 52 weeks per year with wrestling content, it would be impossible for ESPN, the television station, because of its commitments to major sports. And that would kind of take a back seat. It wouldn't make it worth its money. But the idea of ESPN and WWE working together on a digital side would be possible. And the quote was, "I'd say I believe our companies," and this changed a couple of years ago, so this is not breaking news, but I believe our point of view towards WWE as a potential distribution outlet for their events. I think we passed that a long time ago, and I think we're now in a bucket of, hey, if the rights are available and there's a deal for us that works and a deal for them that works with us, I think it's certainly a possibility. There's no hesitation anymore from a brand perspective or from our live event versus scripted. They are fans and our viewers. There's tremendous overlap. So to me, it's just about the business of it, and there's something that works. I may have said it to you last time we talked. To their credit, they run a 52-year week of business, a year business. He continued to be more and more complimentary about WWE. It just kind of shows the landscape of where wrestling has come. ESPN was this whole, it's about real sports, and WWE is always looked at as this scripted version of stuff. I know that the rights deals are always being talked about here, and it's always coming up. There's always the next contract, and right now AEW and WBD are kind of in bed together working on their new deal. But this was interesting to me because ESPN still, I know and understand people are critical about their sports coverage. They're still the worldwide leader in sports, and they also, they also have Disney, and like that is a big overlap. That if WWE gets added to that umbrella of services, I think it could be something that has some weight.
I think pro wrestling, as people continue to cord cut and go away from cable and just go to streaming apps, as that happens, wrestling becomes more and more valuable to cable outlets because people tune into that. There's a lot of ratings. If you look, man, even when ratings from a fan perspective are relatively low for a Dynamite or a Raw, it's still typically top 5, top 10 of the night in the time slot. So they're always there at the top. I think when you're looking at the landscape of what people tune into week to week, it's a very reliable option to have a pro wrestling company on your channel because there's at least consistency, and it's not seasonal. It's 52 weeks a year. So how could that not be intriguing to any cable outlet or any company to sign and have in your programming schedule? I think it's, as of right now, the only thing people are really, the two biggest things, in my opinion, from where I stand, live sports and pro wrestling are like the two things that I know it's what keeps me watching cable is sports and wrestling. Everything else is available on streaming. So I think as that continue, I think it's going to get worse and worse, and cable's going to be, we're in the dying days of basic, cable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as that continues, wrestling will either have to go the way of streaming too, or there'll be that bastion of ratings when everything else is kind of going away.
All I could say is follow the NFL. Whatever they're doing is going to be a barometer of where it goes, and they're on YouTube now, so that's all. That says a lot to me.
There you go.
Let's go to Dave's Raves and talk about what he had to say about the week in wrestling.
Dave Raves.
All right. Uncle Dave Meltzer, he was talking about all things wrestling. He was an important topic in our Tavern chat this week, as always. His match of the week was Naito versus Will Ospreay in the G1 from August 12th in Tokyo. And he was very complimentary of Naito, although he wasn't his wrestler of the week. He talked about how he had two of the best matches of the year facing two of the best wrestlers of this generation, that being Will Ospreay and Okada. He was talking about the tournament being disappointing and Naito sort of being on the tail end of his career, but saying just the two opponents that he had kind of brought him over the finish line, even saying that at 41 years old, had two of the best matches of his career as of late. Not sure if I agree with that, saying that. I know his perspective of it is different, but I wasn't as impressed with the main event as a lot of people were, but the match with Okada to me was better than I thought. Don't get me wrong, but the match with Will Ospreay was better. And to me, the match of the tournament still is Will Ospreay versus Phantasmo. But, that's saying a lot, where Naito was able to hold his own. Because what we saw at Forbidden Door, if you're only seeing him at AEW, you're like, wow, how could this guy step up and do it? But him and Tanahashi, they took into a new gear during the G1. So I have to say, very impressive. And he was talking about this Ospreay match against Naito, saying it ranks with the Tanahashi versus Ibushi match as the best G1 match in history. So high praise. Go out of your way, check it out, New Japan World. So, that's about what I have to say about it. We talked about the G1 last week.
Yeah, I did not get to see that match, Ospreay and Naito, so I'm not sure how that turned out. I'm just basing off of a few of the recent matches of Naito. He seems a little rough around the edges to me.
Yeah, he was talking about really how Naito was legitimately knocked out, and there's controversy because it appeared he suffered concussion, and going on after concussion isn't the best idea. And he said, let alone working a match 20 hours later. So Will Ospreay helped him walk through the match, and the match was still very good, to the point where it reminds me of the WrestleMania 19 match again with Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. And Lesnar went for the shooting star, landed on his head, and he still had to go over in the match, hit the F5, and Kurt Angle was like, you heard stories now where he's panicking, like, come on, you got to wake up and get this finish done. Naito was able to hit the Destino for the end of the match, but there's a chance the match doesn't continue. And we saw that happen recently where Rey Mysterio got legitimately knocked out or hurt in the match, where they put Santos Escobar on. They had to change the finish.
Right.
So but imagine the stakes here, where Okada would have to win. And that wasn't the plan for the G1. And the winner goes on to face Sonata for the championship at Wrestle Kingdom. It changes all your plans. So there was a lot riding on this Ospreay and Naito match, because Ospreay, like you said, I think the match against Omega is going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom. So if Ospreay went over, that means Ospreay would have had to lose to Okada, and that's a butterfly effect.
Right.
His performer of the week was Will Ospreay. And I think, if we add him up, I think it's been week after week he's been giving it to Ospreay, and well deserved. If you're not watching what Will Ospreay is doing over in Japan, you're just missing out.
Definitely.
All right, let's get to the week ahead and talk about everything coming up, including All In and Dynamite. A lot of stuff on dock for us.
The week ahead.
All right, so as you guys are watching this, we have Monday Night Raw. We have Shinsuke Nakamura revealing what he whispered into Seth Rollins' ear on their build towards Payback. We have the IC Championship match, Gunther defending against Chad Gable in what is sure to be an amazing match. And we get a tag match, the return of the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods taking on the unlikely team of Drew McIntyre, and Matt Riddle. So Raw, decent card here. Matt Riddle has been bottom of the barrel as far as booking goes since he's come back. They've made him into a mid-carder jobber.
Oh yeah. They're done with him. He's off their meal ticket.
For NXT Heatwave on 8/22, we have a stack card. This will be on USA. We have pretty much a stacked event. NXT Championship, Carmelo Hayes defends against Wes Lee. Dragunov versus Trick Williams. We got the NXT Heritage Cup. Nathan Frazier defends against Noam Dar. Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley teaming up to take on Dragon Lee and Leah Valkyria. So a mixed tag match happening there. Cool to see Rhea on an NXT pay-per-view. Baron Corbin versus Von Wagner. Ava versus Ivy Nile. And we get a Tiffany Stratton appearance for NXT Heatwave on 8/22.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. Good main event. Dragunov always gets me there.
AEW Dynamite Fighter Fest on Wednesday. John Moxley versus Rey Fenix. The Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks take it on Juice Robinson and the Guns. Sky Blue versus Ruby Soho. Swerve and AR Fox taking on Darby Allin and Nick Wayne. ROH tag titles on the line. Aussie Open versus the Hardys. Jack Perry is going to be retiring the FTW Championship. Renee Paquette going to speak with Adam Cole and also speak to MJF. And we're going to have a Will Ospreay and Chris Jericho contract signing. So jam-packed Dynamite on the go home before All In.
They better fire all their guns. This is the last Dynamite before the big one.
And we also have Impact on Thursday as we kind of say goodbye to the multiverse show, but we're building towards this is the go home before Emergence. We get the Impact Championship on the line. Alex Shelley or Hiroshi Tanahashi. We know Alex Shelley won, even though we're recording this prior. Defending against Brian Myers. The Knockouts Championship Trinity defending against Jody Threat. Actually, that's a non-title match. So Jody Threat not getting a shot, but it's a non-title match against Trinity. Chris Sabin versus Samurai Del Sol in his debut match. And ABC, Chris Bay and Ace Austin versus the Good Hands. John Skyler and Jason Hotch, followed up by Diener versus Laredo Kid. So some nice stuff for an Impact on the go home before Emergence.
Stacked up for the go home.
On SmackDown, we have Jimmy Uso appearing, and then we get Rey Mysterio versus Grayson Waller. So Grayson Waller, this is a non-title match. Rey Mysterio, we saw that Austin Theory is going to be taking him on a Payback, I believe. So Grayson Waller is in that field here where, talk about future megastars, Grayson Waller has the it factor.
Yeah, he's going to be a big name soon.
So on 8/27, following All In, we have Impact Emergence. We have the Impact Knockouts Championship Trinity defense against Deonna Purrazzo. The Impact World Champion Alex Shelley teaming with Kushida and Chris Sabin. And also Josh Alexander to take on Bully Ray, Moose, Brian Myers, and Leo Rush, the X Division Champion. We have the Impact Tag Team Championship on the line. Subculture, Flash Morgan and Webster, and Mark Andrews defending against the Rascals, Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. And we get Sonata versus Jake Something. Allegedly, it's going to be a non-title match, but it might be for the IWGP Championship. And, of course, you have the Knockouts Tag Team Championship on the line. MK Ultra, Masha Slamovich, and Killer Kelly defending against Giselle Shaw, Savannah Evans. The Death Dolls, Jessica and Courtney Rush. And, of course, the Coven, Kylan King, and Taylor Wilde. So a lot of wrestling on deck for us. Going to be some good stuff. All-day wrestling, 1 o'clock until probably 11 if you want to sit down and watch all of it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. We're almost under 2 hours, Ace. Can we wrap it up in under 2 hours?
I think we can. That's all we got for you today. That's all the stuff we have. Lead us out. Give us our plugs for the Turnbuckle Tavern because, we got to lead them out the good way.
TheTurnbuckleTavern.com. Everything we got going on. We got new Shot of Nostalgia season starting. We have so much stuff. Check it out. Go to TheTurnbuckleTavern.com. Go to @Turnbuckle Tavern to follow all the guys. Follow all the shows we got going on. So much stuff. We'll be here to break down everything for you guys. From All In, previewing All Out, we will be back. Check out all the shows as they break down all the pro wrestling happening. And until next Monday, when we wine and dine with you kings and queens, stay out of the alley and away from the pork and beans. God luck and good speed.
Reach for the sky, boy.